If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. Trying to read our DNA is like trying to understand software code. With only 90% of the code riddled with errors, it's very difficult in that case to understand and predict what that software code is going to do. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Over time, I think we will probably see a closer merger of biological intelligence and digital intelligence. I think it would be great to be born on Earth and die on Mars, just hopefully not at the point of impact. If you had to buy a new plane every time you flew somewhere, it would be incredibly expensive. In the case of Apple, they did originally do production internally. But then along came unbelievably good outsourced manufacturing from companies like Foxconn. We don't have that in the rocket business. There's no Foxconn in the rocket business. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. I hate writing about personal stuff. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't use my Twitter account. I am familiar with both, but I don't use them. The value of beauty and inspiration is very much underrated, no question. But I want to be clear, I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. From an evolutionary standpoint, human consciousness has not been around very long. A little light just went on after 4.5 billion years. How often does that happen? Maybe it is quite rare. I had so many people try to talk me out of starting a rocket company, it was crazy. If we're going to have any chance of sending stuff to other star systems, we need to be laser focused on becoming a multi-planet civilization. I've actually not read any books on time management. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. Some companies out there quote a start of production that is substantially in advance of when customers get their cars. Land on Mars, a round-trip ticket, $500,000. It can be done. It is theoretically possible to warp space-time itself. So you're not actually moving faster than the speed of light, but it's actually space that's moving. The factory is the machine that builds the machine. I'm trying to construct a world that maximizes the probability that SpaceX continues its mission without me. If you look at our current technology level, something strange has to happen to civilizations, and I mean strange in a bad way. And it could be that there are a whole lot of dead, one-planet civilizations. We could definitely make a flying car, but that's not the hard part. The hard part is, how do you make a flying car that's super safe and quiet? Because if it's a howler, you're going to make people very unhappy. Here in the West, people often don't like listening to their leaders, even if they are right. I usually describe myself as an engineer. That's basically what I've been doing since I was a kid. The reason we should do a carbon tax is because it's the right thing to do. It's economics 101, elementary stuff. As you heat the planet up, it's just like boiling a pot. There are really two things that have to occur in order for a new technology to be affordable to the mass market. One is you need economies of scale. The other is you need to iterate on the design. You need to go through a few versions. You could warm Mars up, over time, with greenhouse gases. I'm personally a moderate and a registered independent, so I'm not strongly Democratic or strongly Republican. I think most of the important stuff on the internet has been built. There will be continued innovation, for sure, but the great problems of the internet have essentially been solved. If humanity doesn't land on Mars in my lifetime, I would be very disappointed. Winning Motor Trend Car of the Year is probably the closest thing to winning the Oscar or Emmy of the car industry. You need to be in the position where it is the cost of the fuel that actually matters and not the cost of building the rocket in the first place. I think we have a duty to maintain the light of consciousness to make sure it continues into the future. When I was in college, I wanted to be involved in things that would change the world. People should pursue what they're passionate about. That will make them happier than pretty much anything else. I say something, and then it usually happens. Maybe not on schedule, but it usually happens. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work in the morning and enjoy working. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. I think life on Earth must be about more than just solving problems. It's got to be something inspiring, even if it is vicarious. My background educationally is physics and economics, and I grew up in sort of an engineering environment. My father is an electromechanical engineer, and so there were lots of engineering things around me. If something's important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. Any product that needs a manual to work is broken. The lessons of history would suggest that civilizations move in cycles. You can track that back quite far. The Babylonians, the Sumerians, followed by the Egyptians, the Romans, China. We're obviously in a very upward cycle right now, and hopefully that remains the case. But it may not. Great companies are built on great products. Life is too short for long-term grudges. Brand is just a perception, and perception will match reality over time. Sometimes it will be ahead, other times it will be behind. But brand is simply a collective impression some have about a product.